Easter was supposed to be about family, peace, and forgiveness, but this year, mine decided to forgive me by cutting me out completely. They said I always bring drama. They said I ruin everything. So when they uninvited me from Easter, I didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't beg. I just decided, if they want drama, I'll give them the kind you can't walk away from. When the group chat pinged that Thursday morning, I was still wrapped in my blanket, half asleep and dreaming of nothing special. Easter was 3 days away, and usually by then, my family chat would be filled with chaotic messages. Who's bringing ham? Who's hiding the eggs too well? Who's hosting? Who's late already, even though the event hasn't begun? This year, though, things felt off. Everyone had been strangely quiet. Not that I expected much from them lately. Family wasn't something I celebrated with joy anymore. More like something I tolerated, the way you tolerate a headache. You pretend you're fine until it gets worse. But that morning, the ping sounded different, like it carried a message meant to punch instead of inform. It was from my sister Denise. "Hey everyone, just a quick update. Easter lunch will be at Mom's place at 1 p.m. Also, this year we've decided it's better if some people sit this one out." I frowned. My eyes scanned the message again. I wasn't fully awake yet, so my brain stumbled over the meaning, like it was trying to put together a puzzle without the corner pieces. Then my phone buzzed again. "Denise. Just to be clear, Lena, this means you. We don't want any drama this year. No offense." No offense. It was like someone tossing a grenade and then whispering, "Oops." I sat up straight, heart punching my ribs from the inside. At first, I didn't even respond. I just stared at my phone, waiting for someone else, Mom, Dad, my brother, anyone, to jump in and say, "Denise, seriously, what are you doing?" But one by one, the responses came. And none of them defended me. Mom, "Sweetheart, maybe it's for the best. Things have been tense lately." Dad, "We just want a peaceful day this time." My brother, Eric, "No hard feelings, Lena." No hard feelings. The phrase echoed in my head like a bad joke. I clicked the screen off, tossed the phone onto the mattress, and stared at the ceiling. At first, there was a numbness, like my emotions had been temporarily unplugged. Then slowly, heat crept into my chest, rising like steam inside a sealed pot. Drama. That's what they called me. I wasn't the one who cheated on a spouse and turned Easter 2019 into the ham-throwing incident. I wasn't the one who got drunk and started a fist fight over who hid the golden egg in 2021. I wasn't the one who cried hysterically because someone brought store-bought cookies instead of homemade, looking at you, Denise. But I was the one who spoke up. I was the one who told the truth. I was the one who didn't sit quietly in the corner and let chaos become the family tradition. So, yes, in their eyes, I brought drama. I got up, walked into the bathroom, and splashed cold water on my face. The mirror showed someone tired, not just physically, emotionally tired. Tired of always being the scapegoat, tired of always being the one they blamed so they didn't have to look at themselves. I grabbed my phone again and with hands still damp, typed, "Got it. Don't worry, you won't have to deal with my drama. Enjoy." Then I tossed the phone onto the couch like it offended me personally. For the rest of the morning, I worked from home, trying to act normal, but every few minutes, my mind wandered back to the message. The rejection peeled at me, layer by layer. It wasn't even about Easter. It was about being so easily discarded, as if my presence was a nuisance, as if I was a guest, not family. By noon, anger had fully replaced hurt. It sat heavy inside me, warm and buzzing, like an electric current. Drama. Right. Around 3 p.m., my phone buzzed again. This time, it was from Denise privately. "Denise, also, just so there's no misunderstanding, we just want this year to be chill. Last Easter, you made things hard for everyone." Made things hard? Oh, she meant the fact that I found her husband flirting with another woman on the porch, and I told her. Yes, what a crime, exposing the truth. Me, "I was protecting you." Denise, "It didn't feel that way." Sure, because honesty hurts more than betrayal. I didn't respond after that. I knew anything I said would be twisted. The next day was Good Friday. I woke up with a surprising sense of peace, like my soul had quietly decided to let go. Not to forgive, but to stop carrying their guilt on my back. I made coffee. I played music. I ignored the buzzing group chat. They were discussing who was bringing what. Apparently, Denise was making deviled eggs, which she always messed up. Mom was baking pies. Dad was handling drinks. Eric was smoking a brisket. I was uninvited. And yet, I still felt involved, because apparently, my emotions didn't get the memo to detach fully. By noon, I needed air. I took a walk to the local park, watching families set up for early Easter activities. Kids laughed, couples held hands, dogs chased frisbees. It was peaceful, something my family always wanted but never created. Easter morning arrived faster than I expected. I woke up to silence. No invites, no reminders, no wish you were here. Just nothing. It was 10 a.m. when the idea hit me. Not anger, not revenge, not spite. Something quieter, more dignified, more controlled. If they think I bring drama, maybe I should show them what real drama looks like. Not yelling, not crying, not breaking anything, but something they would feel. Something that would pull the rug from under their perfectly planned, drama-free Easter. I walked to my desk drawer and pulled out a small notebook I kept for my budget tracking. Inside were notes from every time I helped them financially, every bill I covered, every emergency payment I made. Denise's overdue electricity bill, $184. Mom's vet bill for her cat, $233. Eric's last-minute rent help, $500. Dad's prescription pickup, $78. And more. Dozens of little rescues, dozens of moments they conveniently forgot whenever they called me dramatic. My fingers lightly drummed on the pages as an idea took shape. I couldn't ruin their Easter dinner physically. I wasn't invited after all. But their financial Easter? That I could transform into something unforgettable. See, because I hadn't been repaid for any of these. Every "I'll pay you back next week" dissolved into thin air like steam from hot tea. So I decided, if they value peace so much, they should also value settling debts. I grabbed my laptop, typed up invoices. Polite, formal, almost annoyingly professional. Each one listed the debt, the date I covered it, and the note. Payment due within 14 days. Thank you. Then I sent them to every single family member at exactly 12:30 p.m., half an hour before Easter lunch began. The group chat exploded like a firework gone wrong. Eric, Lena, what the hell is this? Mom, honey, why are you sending us these, today of all days? Dad, is this some kind of joke? Denise, there it is, the drama. And that was the moment something inside me snapped, not in a chaotic way, but in the way a lock snaps open after being stuck for years. Me, not drama, accountability. Since I'm uninvited today, I figured I'd tie up loose ends. Please review your invoices. Denise, you're unbelievable. Me, funny, that's exactly what I think of you. Then I muted the chat, set my phone down, and let myself smile. Not an evil smile, not a smug one, just a peaceful, relieved smile. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't the problem. I wasn't the scapegoat. I wasn't the dramatic one. I was simply done. And as I made myself a small Easter lunch, humming to the quiet of my apartment, I felt lighter. They wanted a drama-free Easter. They just didn't realize drama doesn't come from presence. Sometimes it comes from absence. But this story, this drama, oh, it was only just beginning. I hadn't expected complete silence from them after sending the invoices, but that's exactly what I got. For the next hour, not a single message came through. The group chat that normally buzzed like a broken power line on holidays was dead still. Not even a stray emoji from Mom to soften the atmosphere. At first, I thought maybe they were pretending not to care. That would have been very on brand for them. Pretend nothing's wrong, smile for the outside world, and then send me a passive-aggressive novel later. But the silence dragged on. 20 minutes? 30? 45? By the time the clock hit 1:30 p.m., I couldn't help but chuckle. They were probably all together, stiff-backed and bug-eyed at the table, whispering in voices they thought were quiet, but definitely weren't. I could imagine Denise leaning over the ham, hissing, "See, this is what I mean. She loves making everything about her." And Mom wringing her hands, whispering something about just wanting a calm holiday. Dad probably muttering that I was overreacting while conveniently forgetting the number of times I saved his butt. Eric, meanwhile, would be eating like nothing was happening because that man could devour food during a natural disaster. They all wore their flaws like shiny accessories, but somehow I was the dramatic one. I leaned back on my couch and watched the soft sunlight warm the room. My apartment felt so peaceful compared to the mental image of their Easter gathering. For once, I wasn't the one sitting in the middle of their dysfunction, and that alone was liberating. But the peace didn't last. At 2:07 p.m., my phone buzzed. Dad was calling. I stared at the screen, debating. Normally, I'd answer out of instinct, because no matter how much pain my family caused, some part of me always tried to keep the door open. But not today. Today, the door was locked, bolted. I let it ring, and ring, and ring. He didn't leave a voicemail, which only meant one thing. He was pissed. Another buzz. Mom this time. Decline. 10 seconds later, Denise. Decline. Then a message appeared from her. Denise. Seriously, Lena, grow up. I set the phone face down on the couch. If I gave her attention right now, she'd feed off it like a vampire at a blood bank. She wanted a reaction, drama, a tirade she could point to later and say, "See, this is why we didn't invite her." But I wasn't giving them the satisfaction. Instead, I went to the kitchen, made myself a cup of chamomile tea, and sat by the window watching people stroll by outside. I wondered how many of them were going through the same thing, family gatherings that left more bruises than memories. By 3 p.m., I heard a loud knock on my door. My heart lurched. For a second, I thought maybe someone from my family had come over. Maybe Denise wanted to confront me in person. Maybe Mom had come to cry and say she didn't mean it that way. Maybe Dad wanted to lecture me. I didn't move. The knocking came again, 3 sharp bangs. I crept to the peephole and burst into laughter. It was my neighbor, Mr. Dawson, balancing a plate of cookies like it was a delicate scientific experiment. He was the sweetest older man on my floor. "Lena," he called through the door, "you home?" I opened it. "Hey, Mr. Dawson, what's up?" He held up the plate like a trophy. "My granddaughter baked too many cookies. Thought you might want some. I know holidays can get quiet when you live alone." The tenderness of that simple gesture nearly cracked me. I swallowed the lump in my throat and smiled. "Thank you, really." He wanked and shuffled away, humming to himself. As I closed the door, the warmth from that small kindness washed over me. My own family couldn't offer me the grace a neighbor I barely knew did. Pathetic. I placed the cookies on the table, and just as I turned back toward the living room, the phone rang again, this time a video call from Mom. I sighed. She wouldn't stop. And honestly, some part of me wanted to hear what excuse she'd come up with. I answered. Mom's face filled the screen, dramatic and frazzled, like she'd been crying, or artificially trying to look like she had. She was sitting at the dining table, and behind her, I could see everyone else pretending not to watch the call. "Lena," she began, voice trembling in that way she used whenever she wanted sympathy. "Why are you doing this on Easter?" "Doing what?" I asked, deadpan. "This," she gestured vaguely, as if waving her hand would explain everything. "These invoices, the messages, ruining the mood." I raised an eyebrow. Funny, I thought I wasn't invited, so I couldn't ruin anything. Mom closed her eyes like she was praying for patience. Behind her, Denise was whispering something to Eric, who wasn't listening. He was eating again. "Sweetheart," Mom continued, "we just wanted a peaceful day." "Peaceful doesn't mean excluding someone," I said. "That's not peace. That's convenience." Denise suddenly appeared beside her, snatching the phone. "Okay, enough," she snapped. "You can drop the victim act. Everyone knows you thrive on tension.
You couldn't handle being left out for once, so now you're throwing financial threats at us? I stared at her calmly. They're not threats, they're debts. That's not how family works, she barked. Oh, I tilted my head. Family only works when it benefits you, huh? Her nostrils flared like a cartoon bull. You're unbelievable. No, Denise, I replied softly. I'm tired. She was about to unleash another tirade when I added, also, you do realize every invoice includes receipts, right? Actual proof I paid for all those things. Her mouth snapped shut. She hadn't expected that. Mom reached for the camera again, babbling, "We'll talk about this tomorrow." No, I interrupted. We won't. The room behind Mom fell silent. Even Dad looked up from his plate. I'm done, I said simply. I'm done being your emotional dumping ground, your scapegoat, your emergency wallet, your therapist, your babysitter, your backup plan, all of it. Mom blinked, mascara trembling. Sweetheart, we didn't mean to hurt you. You never mean to, I said quietly, but you always do. For the first time in years, I wasn't shaking. I wasn't crying. I wasn't biting my tongue until it bled. I was steady, clear, firm. And judging by the stunned silence on the other end, they knew it. I continued. You uninvited me because you thought I'd make drama, but you know what the real drama is? They all stared. The real drama is a family who can't take responsibility for anything, not even the hurt they cause. Denise scoffed. Dad grunted. Eric looked away. Mom's eyes filled with tears. I nodded slowly. Pay the invoices, or don't. Honestly, I'm not even sure I care anymore. Then I ended the call. The moment the screen went black, breath rushed out of my lungs. It felt like exhaling years of swallowed words, suppressed feelings, ignored pain. My apartment was still, warm, and safe. But in the sudden quiet, one truth hit me. I wasn't angry anymore. I was grieving. Grieving the family I wished I had. Grieving the version of them I always hoped would show up. Grieving the love I kept giving without receiving. I set the phone down and let myself feel it, fully, deeply. Not the sharp sting of anger, the heavy ache of disappointment. By evening, my phone was full of missed calls, a few half-baked apologies, and one particularly long message from Dad about respect and family obligations, which I didn't bother opening. But there was one message I did expect eventually, and at 8:42 p.m., it came. Eric, hey, can we talk? I almost ignored it, but unlike the others, Eric wasn't mean, just oblivious, and sometimes unintentionally selfish. Me, what do you want? He replied instantly. Eric, just to talk, not fight. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him outside my building. He lived only 10 minutes away, and he showed up wearing that guilty half smile that said he had no idea how to handle emotions but was giving it his best shot. We walked to a bench nearby, under a streetlight that buzzed faintly. He shoved his hands into his pockets. Look, I'm not great with words, you know that. But, he exhaled. They were wrong to uninvite you. Even I thought it was messed up. That startled me. You did? Yeah. He kicked a small pebble. I don't say much in the family chat, but I notice stuff. You help everyone, probably more than you should. I stayed silent, not trusting myself to speak. And the debts? He scratched his neck awkwardly. You didn't have to do it like that, but you're not wrong. We owe you. It wasn't an apology, not fully, but it was the closest thing I'd heard in years. After a long pause, he added, Mom's really upset. I know, I said softly, but she's upset because she got caught hurting someone, not because she's sorry. Eric sighed. Yeah, maybe. We sat there for a while, the night calm around us. Finally, he said, What do you want, Lena? Like, from them? From us? The question sank deep. What did I want? Not money, that was for sure. Not an invitation to a hollow Easter dinner. Not forced apologies. I wanted acknowledgement, respect, consistency, love that didn't hurt. But more than anything, I whispered, I want peace. Eric nodded slowly. Then take it. I looked at him. What about you? He smiled a little. I'll figure my own peace out. But you deserve yours. I didn't cry, but something inside me unclenched, something that had been tight for a long, long time. We said goodbye, and as I walked back to my apartment, his question kept echoing in my mind. What do you want? And that night, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling in the dark, I realized something profound. The invoices, the confrontation, they weren't revenge. They were closure. But the story wasn't over yet. Because the next morning, my family did something I never expected. Something that would twist the drama into a direction even I didn't see coming.
The next morning, sunlight leaked through the blinds like soft gold, gently warming my face. If this had been any normal Monday, I would have woken up groggy, annoyed at the alarm, already dreading emails and deadlines. But this morning, I woke up calm, almost suspiciously calm. It was the calm that follows a storm, not the dramatic lightning kind, but the kind where the wind finally stops shaking the windows and everything feels eerily still. The kind where you're not sure if the storm is over or simply gathering strength again. I stretched, grabbed my phone from the nightstand, and blinked at the screen. 23 missed messages, 7 missed calls, 8 voicemails, and 1 new notification that made me sit up straight. A bank transfer. From Denise. My eyes widened. Payment received $184. She actually paid the electricity bill I'd covered 3 months earlier. I blinked, staring at the notification again, just to make sure I wasn't hallucinating from sleep deprivation. Then, another buzz. Payment received $233. This one was from Mom. The vet bill. Before I could process that, another buzz. Payment received $78. Dad. And then, payment received $500. Eric. I sat there in stunned silence, staring at my phone like it had suddenly transformed into an oracle and delivered a prophecy I never believed would come true. They were paying me back, all of them, on the same morning. It felt impossible, unreal, almost comedic. For years, they'd brushed off every debt, made excuses, promised, but never followed through. And now, less than 24 hours after I sent those invoices, they were coughing up money like guilty teenagers caught shoplifting. Part of me felt vindicated. Part of me felt weird. Because all I'd wanted was recognition, not repayment. The money symbolized something deeper, an acknowledgement, a silent admission of, yes, we used you, yes, we took advantage of you, yes, we owe you. But before I could settle into that thought, my phone buzzed again, this time with a message from Mom. Mom, honey, can we talk? I stared at the screen. A simple request. 3 words that normally would have sent me rushing to reassure her, calm her, fix everything. But today, I typed, maybe later. I placed the phone down, went into the kitchen, and made myself French toast. Thick slices, powdered sugar, cinnamon, comfort food I used to make when I needed grounding. The smell filled the apartment, warm and nostalgic. I sat at the table, fork in hand, staring at the syrup pooling around the edges. For a moment, I wondered if I should feel guilty. I didn't. Not much, anyway. They had excluded me, dismissed me, labeled me the family problem. All I did was hold up a mirror. Halfway through breakfast, my phone buzzed again. I ignored it. Then, a minute later, another buzz, and another. By the time I finished eating, I checked out of sheer curiosity. It was Denise. Denise, I paid you. Can we talk? Denise, at least acknowledge it. This is ridiculous. Denise, I'm coming over. My heart dropped. Immediately, I typed, me. Do not come over. I mean it. The typing bubble appeared. Denise, too late. I'm already in the car. My pulse spiked. The last thing I wanted was a face-to-face confrontation. Denise didn't argue. She attacked. Words, expressions, tone. She knew how to twist things until you ended up apologizing for something she did. And worse, she never came alone.
My apartment was still in pajamas at noon mode. I didn't have the emotional armor for a sibling showdown. Adrenaline hit me like a caffeine overdose. I typed quickly, "Me, if you show up here, I won't open the door." No response. Then a knock. 3 sharp, impatient bangs. I froze. No way. Another knock, louder this time. I approached the door quietly, heart pounding, and peered through the peephole. It wasn't Denise. It was Eric. I exhaled shakily and opened the door an inch, chained. "What are you doing here?" He lifted both hands in surrender. "Relax, I'm not here to fight." I studied him through the crack. Messy hair, wrinkled t-shirt, the look of a man who'd fought with himself more than anyone else recently. I unhooked the chain and opened the door fully. "You said everything last night. Why are you here?" He stepped inside slowly. "Because they won't stop fighting about you." I blinked. "What?" He ran a hand through his hair. "The minute we woke up this morning, everyone started arguing. Mom thinks you're breaking the family apart. Dad says we should have never uninvited you. Denise says you planned all this to make her look bad." I snorted despite myself. "She doesn't need my help for that." He cracked a tiny smile. "True." I crossed my arms, leaning against the table. "So what do you want from me this time?" Eric sighed. "Honestly, I don't know. They're losing it, Lena, and weirdly enough, you're the only one who seems calm." "Because I stepped out of the circus," I replied. He nodded slowly. "And maybe that's what they're afraid of." That made me pause. He continued, "You were always the one who held things together, the helper, the fixer, the mediator. You did so much that when you finally pulled back, everything fell apart." I stared at him, stunned by the clarity in his words. He added gently, "They didn't lose control because you created drama. They lost control because they lost you." Something inside my chest wavered, like the ground under me shift half an inch. Eric stood there awkwardly, shifting his weight. "They want to see you." I figured. But he added quickly, "But if you don't want to, I'll back you up. You don't owe them anything. Not explanations, not time, not forgiveness." I looked at him, really looked. This wasn't the oblivious brother from yesterday. This was someone trying to see me, trying to understand me, trying to support me. "Eric," my voice softened, "thank you." He shrugged. "Don't thank me. I just want things to be okay." I shook my head gently. "But maybe things don't have to go back to how they were." He sighed. "Yeah, maybe." There was a knock on the door again, louder, more urgent. Eric raised a hand. "That's them." My stomach flipped. "You didn't tell them?" "I didn't," he said. "Mom tracked my location." Of course she did. Another knock. "Lena," it was Mom's voice. Strained, emotional, trembling. "Please open the door." Eric looked at me quietly. "It's your call." I inhaled slowly, deep, steady, then walked to the door and opened it. Mom stood there, eyes glossy, her hair a mess like she'd been running her hands through it all morning. Dad stood behind her, arms crossed, jaw tight. Denise hovered to the side, arms folded, eyebrows sharp enough to cut glass. Mom rushed forward. "Sweetheart, we're so sorry." I held up a hand. "Stop." She froze mid-step. I scanned all of them, feeling my heartbeat steadying, not rising in fear, but solidifying in confidence. "You're not here because you're sorry," I said evenly. "You're here because you lost control over me, and you don't know how to handle that." Mom stared at me, confused. Dad's jaw clenched. Denise's eyes narrowed. I stepped back slightly, not letting them enter. "For years," I continued, voice steady, "I've been your emotional sponge, your helper, your go-to. You took, and I let you. That's on me." They shifted uncomfortably. "But yesterday, you made it clear exactly how much my presence was worth to you." Denise snapped, "We didn't mean—" "Don't," I cut her off sharply. "You said what you meant. You just didn't expect consequences." Mom reached out a trembling hand. "Sweetheart." "Mom," I whispered firmly, "I'm not angry anymore. I'm done." Silence. A heavy, suffocating silence.
Dad finally spoke, voice low. "So, what are you saying?" I took a breath. "I'm taking a break from this family." Mom gasped. No, no, please. It's not forever, I said, but I need distance. I need peace. And I need you to understand that your actions have consequences. Denise scoffed. So you're cutting us off because of Easter? I met her eyes, unflinching. I'm stepping back because you don't treat me like family unless you need something. She opened her mouth, then shut it. Mom began to cry softly, covering her mouth. Dad looked away. Eric stood behind them, watching me with quiet understanding, his eyes soft with something I never thought I'd see from him: respect. I continued, "Thank you for paying me back. That means more than you know. But money doesn't fix the real issue." Mom whispered, "What can we do?" I swallowed. "Work on yourselves," I said, "and maybe, someday, we try again." Tears rolled down her cheeks. Dad looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 seconds. Even Denise's mask cracked for a moment, revealing something like shame. Eric nodded slowly, as if saying, "I'll help them. I'll work on me, too." I'd exhaled softly. "This isn't goodbye," I said gently. "It's just space." No one argued. They turned slowly, walking back toward the elevator. Mom looked back once, her eyes pleading, but she didn't step forward. And when the doors closed behind them, I stood there in my hallway, heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my wrists. But it wasn't fear. It was freedom. I closed the door, leaned against it, and let out a long, shaky breath. Inside my quiet apartment, something settled, like dust after a long, chaotic storm. Not sadness, not anger, not guilt, just peace. The kind I'd been chasing for years without even realizing it. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel dramatic. I felt whole.